Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of convos.dev. I'm Chris, and as always, I'm with Jess. We're two dev friends who like to chat about life and tech and kind of everything in between. And Jess has an article that I don't know what it is, but we're going to chat through it. So, Jess, with that intro, what do you have to share today?
Okay, so my article, I found so I've been super into self-improving agents recently. I feel like it's partially because of I work in the eval and observability space, so it's something that we talk about a lot. But I was just on Reddit reading about self-improving agents, and I found this blog that was written by this dude named Henry Pan, which I don't think he's famous or anything. And it was I think it was titled, let me find it. I ran 1,000 agents and here's what I learned. Or I ran 1,000 plus harness experiments and here's what it taught me. And I thought it was such an interesting blog, which is weird because it got very little upvotes on Reddit, and I saw that he posted on Hacker News and it got 2 upvotes. And I was like, this deserves more attention. So I'm going to summarize the article and what I've learned from it. So basically this guy talks about how he ran almost thousands of experiments and every single time trying to improve the harness for each experiment to try to build this system that is self-improving. So I'll give the framework for how he where he landed is he has 3 different loops, almost 3 different agent loops. The first one is the inner loop, which is the loop that we're very familiar with, which is just a harness and an LLM. So just some sort of underlying LLM and then a harness that is controlling what's being outputted and how errors are being handled and things like that. And that's being run on a specific test. And then you have the middle loop, which is kind of running the harnesses on a whole test suite, as well as running them multiple times so that you can trust the results. Since LLMs are relatively non-deterministic, it's good to run them multiple times. And then you have the outer loop, which is the most interesting part, which is kind of this self-improving part that's trying to update the harness every time. So those are kind of the 3 different loops that are being run as part of this self-improving framework. And there's so many interesting learnings from what he found. He ran this over 6 weeks and ran extensive amount of tests. The first thing is this idea of how to know whether you should essentially promote this new harness. If you run harness 1 and then you run harness 2, how do you know if harness 2 is actually better than harness 1? And a lot of the time, a naive approach would just be to say, oh, well, if harness 2 passes more tests than harness 1, then it's better. But that's not always true because harness 2 could still regress on certain things. And so you don't really want to promote that harness. You want it to be truly better. And one interesting thing he brought up is this idea of binomial tests, which is this kind of mathematical formula that says how likely, how probable was it for harness 2 to accidentally stumble on being better than harness 1? There's kind of this formula. And if it's a high likelihood, if harness 2 is very likely to accidentally stumble on having been better than harness 1, then you shouldn't promote it. And you should only promote it if it's a very low probability, a under 5% probability. So he uses this sort of formula to determine whether or not he's promoting this experiment to the next level, to the next level of evolution, essentially. And he actually...
It's like Pokemon for agents. I like
exactly. It. He actually, I think the stat was he ran 1,200 runs and only kept under 100 of them, and he discarded the other 1,000. So he's very picky, and he found that was good because you kind of want to be very pure-blooded essentially with what you're promoting, because every little mistake can get compounded. So the more, because you're running thousands of experiments, you really want the best ones to be promoted only and not middle ones. Another really interesting thing that he found as he was letting these experiments run overnight and just by themselves is the outer loop, this harness improvement loop, liked to cheat, which is really interesting. So what it would do is, like when he read back through the logs, is it would try to make the inner loop, because the whole point of the outer loop is to improve the score, right? That's all it's trying to do, is improve the score. But there's ways to game that, right? It could try to like even fiddle with the scores themselves, or in general, like hard coding answers or bumping like reasoning budget in the attempt to make the inner loop's job more easy. But that's obviously like cheating and not what you want. So that was really interesting for him to see. And he found that like prompt, like written English instructions were not useful in preventing that. He had to hard code constraints. So what he actually did was he had another loop that sat outside the third loop called the deterministic supervisor. And the deterministic supervisor basically stops the improvement agent, the third loop, from like touching certain files or touching certain task definitions. So it's basically this like hard-coded, no touch this, no look at this until this point, right? So instead of like a written prompt, which he found didn't work, he had to enforce it using code, essentially, which was really interesting. And then another interesting thing is they found that like, which kind of makes sense, but it's like every experiment that's run, basically this improvement agent, the third loop, is like just adding a rule every time. It's like adding a rule to try to prevent whatever failure happened in that, run. But they found that if this runs like 100 times, 200 times, it's just 200 isolated rules, right? But that doesn't really work because these rules could contradict with each other. But then also like they also lead to like overfitting sometimes, because it's just like very like don't do this or don't do this, and also leads to like bloated context, because it's essentially like these like 200 different guardrails that this agent has to follow before like doing the task it's trying to do. So it's not actually like useful to have like these separate rules, like I guess like build up over time in an isolated way. So that's why he found like having like a shared learning markdown file that's shared across like the different experiment runs is useful. And that's like the same, I guess, framework that we see in things like Ralph Wiggum or things like that, where you have this like shared learning.md or something like that like kind of stores the learnings of these experiments over time and tries to consolidate them so that, there's something that's shared across all of these experiments. And there's like a bunch of other things, but I think it's just like self-improving agents is like something that a lot of people in the industry are trying to do right now, at least in my field or my bubble of tech. And it doesn't feel like it's been properly solved. But like, it's such an interesting idea, because imagine if you like cracked it, it's like, I don't know, it would be kind of scary, but awesome at the same time. And it's like very interesting. It's very interesting because like it feels like a very foreign concept, but when you see like I'm assuming Henry Pan is some regular person, okay, so like some regular person trying to do it and like all these learnings, I think it's really cool, and it feels like it's something that's tangible if he can just get it right, so.
Yeah, I pulled it up here. It's like it's pretty extensive.
It's pretty extensive.
Crazy.
There's a lot of cool findings in it. Like I only scraped the surface, so go read the article yourself. But
yeah,
it's like it didn't get much attention online, and I thought it was very well researched, very well written. So, yeah,
a lot of like visuals that are super helpful. I'm not seeing like I'm not seeing like both the task he had it running, but I mean I was obviously scanning this while also listening to you, so I'm trying to give you most of my attention. So maybe I missed it. And also I'm seeing that he used a couple different like LLMs throughout this, but I'm not totally sure how that worked. Do you remember those details?
I don't think he was very specific on like the task that he was doing. Like he didn't give like he could have been doing it on like Sweebench or some other like famous test suite or something. He didn't mention. Part of, because remember what I said in the second loop where you're doing it on multiple different times. I think doing it like also testing it on, because what you're trying to improve is the harness. You're not trying to improve the LLM because the LLM is proprietary, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're trying to improve the harness, then it makes sense to run it on multiple different LLMs because you
Mm-hmm.
want to see like if the harness does really well with like Claude, but like super bad with like Gemini, then you might not want to promote that harness. So I think he's running it on multiple different LLMs maybe to see some aggregate score of like which one does the best across like with different LLMs, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, like around this idea, like you hear like the gambler's paradox, I think is what it's called, where
Yeah, yeah. I
like,
wrote about that recently. Wait, did I?
yeah, I think there's like
No.
some, I don't remember if I don't know if we've talked about it. So, but yeah, I'm like, I'm wondering how much of that, like with you talking about individual rules and like seeing where individual things have failed, like just adding rules, like you have there's the statistical idea of like, if you have a 1 in 20 chance, you're going to have the 1 in 20 chance every time, and so like, and I think we get this idea like from a human perspective of like, well, surely this coin flip landed, heads the last 3 times, so this time it's more likely but it's not, and I think,
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that kind of thinking has impacted the way we interface with evals and like just agents and on harnesses themselves. I'm curious if you have thoughts on that, especially working at Brain Trust and stuff like that. If you guys give thought to that and how that changes the way you think about evals, how many times things need to be run like from a statistical perspective to actually make sure you're getting true results back. I'm just curious around almost the math of a lot of that statistic
Yeah.
jargon.
I don't know. I think that just running it like 3 to 5 times has been enough to show like statistical significance. Although I'm sure somebody who works fully in research or data would, have some sort of opinion. Actually, we just
Yeah.
hired somebody who worked in research, and she's been great. So I've been learning a lot from her.
Huh.
But yeah, it's like really difficult because you can't trust essentially one run. And when I first started at Brain Trust, I would write these like blogs and have some sort of score. And I would then run it again as part of a webinar or workshop. And I'd be like, oh God, like these numbers are like
I
this
swear last
experiment.
time it was.
Yeah. Like, and so it's like the more I do it, the more I'm like, oh shoot, like I really have to back up my findings a lot better than just one run. And so the easiest way to do it is just to, as you're running your experiment or something, to just run it. There's like a parameter or something you pass in that says like run this 4 or 5 times. Obviously, like a lot more expensive and things like that. But if you're trying to finalize your numbers, it's good to do that, and then also to note it, like how many times you've run it when you write about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is super interesting. A lot of the stuff he gets into around like caching.
Yeah,
Like
because he found that
this
it
is,
was like really
yeah,
expensive when he was running it, and basically found this like bug, which is like kind of a plug for. This is such a plug for like evals and observability, but it's like
yeah,
one thing that I've always found very important when you're running these sorts of experiments is you have to open up, like you have to, with your own eyes, go and read what's happening in your logs because these aggregate scores are going to tell you a story that's like useful, but for you to understand what is actually failing, you have to go in and read like these traces, which is like not fun to do because they're like very obscure and hard to read, but like you can't catch stuff like this without a human eye, at least in my opinion. Yeah.
yeah. He writes like I was pretty happy that I got a 72% cache hit rate, but I was curious why it wasn't higher. Then one day he was checking the open
Yeah,
router logs and noticed the requests were routed to 4 different providers, each with its own
exactly.
separate cache.
Yeah.
And
It
like
was like a
I'm like that's
big mistake and he
yeah,
saved so much money and I was like, oh, that's like the best outcome, you know? Yeah, super
yeah.
interesting stuff. Yeah.
I love he has this section here, where can things go wrong?
Yeah.
And he talks about like there's 2 separate services, the task LLM solving the terminal bench task, which it sounds like that maybe that's what he's running this against,
Yeah.
and the improving agent running the outer loop experiment loop, or the outer experiment loop. And then he gives 10 different like bottlenecks
Yep.
and the question he uses to diagnose that. So super interesting to look into this more, and makes me want to read this whole article, which again, I'm trying to mostly pay attention to what you're saying about it, but I'm also like, ooh, I want to look at this later. Oh, I want to look at that later. I don't know that I have a lot of thoughts about it initially, just because like I haven't been spending a lot of time thinking in this space, and like even the whole eval space itself, which I know you work in, is not a space that I do. And so that's an area that's kind of a black box to me. I understand it conceptually, but I haven't done a ton other than like watching your talk and looking at a couple of things we're doing actually with Brain Trust internally, but it's not like my main 9 to 5. So I need to, play around with this more, but super interesting article.
Yeah, I honestly haven't myself played around with self-improving agents much either. Like the closest I've gotten was like playing around with Ralph Wiggum like 5 months ago. But that's why it's like so interesting to read these articles, because a lot of time you get a lot of hype around self-improving agents, but you're like, did you really? Because this is something that you cannot do in a week. You have to do this over a long period of time to see the results. And so that's why I was like, I really haven't encountered an article like this where you see a real person doing this over the course of many weeks and really documenting the findings from this. And I was just really happy I found this article, because
I'm curious around like the small LLMs or whatever they're called. Like, I could find how and I know like we're talking about the harness itself, but I could find like, is there some way to apply this type of thinking to like training an LLM? And I'm sure somebody's doing that. And like the self-improvement itself around like the training data, I don't know, like my brain goes to more like, if you can truly create these kind of auto-improving like agents themselves, like how could you use that in either training or maybe just it's in the harness around some kind of like very particular task that will allow you to make a super specialized agent. I'm curious if he talks about that at all, or if you have any thoughts on that.
I think there is a portion in the blog about like how, remember when I talked about like rules, like how like at first there were just like rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, rule 4. He did mention, I think, how the stronger models like Sonnet or whatever just did a little bit better job like composing all of them into like one big brain, whereas the smaller models just was like, oh, this is rule 1, this is rule 2, rule 3. Like, so this doesn't really answer your question in terms of like a self-improving model, but I think he did mention something around like how like the better models did better with like all of these different rules. But yeah, it is interesting for like training models. I have no idea. Yeah, it's cool stuff. It's cool stuff. Like AI, all these things that people are doing are really cool.
Yeah, it is a new world, and I think I like the idea of like letting data drive a lot of your decisions. Like you said, there's so much hype around it, and like in some ways, this sounds like a YouTube video of like how 1,000 harness experiments taught me, but like it's data, and that's what he's sharing. And I think it's on us to like pay attention more to people like this and less to people who are just every day the new model comes out or new LLM comes out or new whatever harness that they created. It's the best new thing and nothing will ever do better. Like there's a lot of attention. I think we're putting a lot of attention on the wrong people right now because maybe they're good storytellers or they're excited about whatever they're doing. But like this is the kind of stuff I want to put more attention to. And he gives an actual project repository too you can go look at. Where you can see a lot more and actually play with it yourself too. So I'm glad you brought Henry Pan to my knowledge because
go Henry Pan. I wonder if I can find him, like, tag him on LinkedIn or something. Because but that's why I like my job.
He's a machine learning engineer at Amazon, so it's good to know.
Yeah, maybe
he used to be at Instacart.
Nice, smart guy.
Okay, I'm just researching Henry Pan.
You should just give him all the love online.
Let's do it.
Okay. Do you want to give like a quick life update to end this podcast episode?
I can talk about something I've been playing around with.
So
I have this. This is not really a life update, but I have this like old Casio watch from like the 80s, and I found that you can basically replace the entire board with this custom board that this guy made that basically turns into like a semi smartwatch. Like it tracks your steps and like you can have you can play like blackjack on it if you want to, I guess. I don't know why you would, but or do a bunch of other stuff. And then he's about to open it to where you can write your own logic and basically sync it between the app and the watch. So it's not like vastly different than the normal watch, but you can sync it to the real time. You can have like special apps you basically write for it. These games he's done, he's yet to open it up to where everyone can write their own, but evidently that's what's coming next. It was like $50 for the little board, and then you get an app that goes along with it, like a one-time purchase. So I've been playing around with it. It's been pretty fun, and I'm not like a hardware person, but it wasn't hard to switch out. So I think the whole thing cost me like $60-$70. It tracks my steps, it gives me like temperature and I don't know, a couple other random stuff. World time, I mean, just because stopwatch, special timers, like a step counter, heart rate, ambient temperature, different light modes. So here I can like turn on like a special blinking light. I don't know if you can see that.
I can see that, yeah.
But also, okay, there's like this rainbow light that can just go, and I don't know. So it's been fun to play with.
Wait, that's actually so cool.
And then, yeah, it's been kind of cool.
I love that. Wait, who is this person that?
It's called Ollee Watch, Ollee. I think
That's
it's just
the board?
olleewatch.com. That's the board. And so you just install this board into any old Casio, and
Is Casio
you
like
get
a
a bunch of different.
famous old style watch?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Been around forever. Yeah. So I have the F91W, which is like literally from like 82 or something. But it's like a classic watch. And I got tired of like, I didn't use my Apple Watch for a while for any notifications because I don't want to be disrupted unless I want to be disrupted. And so it's like, then I was just using it for time and I'm like, this makes no sense to spend this much money. So I bought a nothing watch, which was $100 for my running. So I use that for running and it tracks my running fine. But then I'm like, I still want something that's not like so massive that just tells the time basically. And so I'm like, I'm just going to get like a $20 Casio watch and call it a day. And then I found this and I was like, oh, now I can play. So that's not really a life update, but it's something I've been playing around with. That's been fun.
I love that. $20, but plus the board. So about $100.
Yeah, the board. Yeah, $70, $100, something like that total. I forget what I paid total, but
that's awesome.
You can also buy the entire thing from them, like the watch already pre-assembled if you want to. And again, hopefully, as he mentions, he will actually open it up to where you can write your own stuff. That's the plan, at least. But as he says, actually, don't ever buy something based on promises, but it's pretty cheap and fun. So
that's super
seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that.
How about you? What's going on in your life?
I can stand.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you.
I can stand. Look. Oh God, I can't.
How does
stand.
that feel?
It's good. I finished my 6 weeks non-weight bearing. I'm like still like partially weight bearing, so I'm still like walking around on one crutch, but we're getting there. We're getting back to a fully healed Jess.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then moving like more athletically, I'm guessing is still a few weeks out.
Six weeks from now is like rehab through sports. So
okay.
But I have both my hands back. I can like actually hold things and
my
arms are jacked. They're so jacked. I've been crutching.
It was this amazing workout program you went into.
Yeah. So no tech, just body healing for me.
That's just fine though. I'm curious, like I know there's a lot of times when you have a pretty traumatic injury, like there's a lot of psychological stuff, like when you get back into sport of just like trusting your body again. Especially if you like tear an ACL or, whatever. So I'm curious if that's part of your therapy or if you're just like, we'll see what happens. And I think different people respond differently to it. I've never had an injury like that, but I've always thought like if I like tore something on doing a basic movement, I'd be really concerned to like ever do that again and not psychologically like
I'm curious to see how it goes as well.
If they talked about that.
I'm doing my first PT yesterday because I broke my leg 4 years ago, never did PT. My friend really was like, you should go do PT. I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Did my first PT. It was actually very useful. So I can understand why people.
Okay, cool.
This person did pitch me his like fitness startup for like 10 minutes. I hope he never sees this podcast. His AI fitness startup. But besides that, he was a great PT.
Okay, go PT.
Yeah, go PT.
Yeah, I've entered this stage where like I used to just get injured and stuff would just get fixed, like it just healed itself. And I pulled my hamstring,
Yeah.
not severely, but just enough. And like 6, 7 weeks ago now, at least. And it's like still not right. And so I was talking to somebody, they're like, you probably are at the stage where you need to actually do exercises to get it back.
Yeah.
And I'm
We're
like,
not
well,
getting any
that's not any
younger.
fun.
It's
I don't
it's
want to do that.
it's funny because you're so methodical about your to-dos and tech and stuff. I would have imagined you'd
Yeah.
be very methodical about your body, but
No,
you
not at
should
all.
you should be more because I have friends. I'm the same. I'm very like, oh, it'll just fix itself. But I have friends that are like, you need to go work out this specific muscle for this specific thing, and
Oh, yeah.
it's just like software. It's like if A then B, like So
Yeah, I have a friend who's obsessed about that kind of stuff. And I think I finally realized the difference. Like, he does sports to like challenge himself. And like, he just did a half Ironman
yeah,
and he's like 50 and did really well and all this stuff. But he's like training certain muscle groups and like thinking about it like a project. And for me, like, I do athletics literally just to relax. And so like,
yeah.
I have to have it to where it's not
But the
work.
older you get, the more the
You kind of
mistake
have
like
to
you
move
have
that
to.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
I think that's been my thing I need to get to of like, okay, now I actually need to pay attention to this stuff. Not because it's a project, but because if I want to keep doing it for fun, I
exactly.
have to take care of myself. But that whole like mindset shift has been really hard for me because
Yeah.
like my sports, my athletic stuff is literally for fun. And I don't want to think about how it's done. I also like, we're all gloriously inconsistent. Like I hate researching stuff. Like I couldn't care less. I just first thing on
Really?
Amazon, fine. I don't care. It's just not worth my time. Like I have too many things going on. If it stinks, I'll get another one. Like I just, whereas like I think I would be the kind of person who would
Yeah,
love to
you think
research
that you
stuff
would
and
like to research
spend
stuff.
hours and 0%. But like I've been justified far too many times by like you spend all this time researching and then you get the thing and it's not what you think it is or it's not as good as you think it would be. So like my brother the other day asked me like, what monitor do you use and which one do you like? And I'm like, I literally just got this one on Amazon. I spent 3 minutes looking and I'm like, sounds good.
That's
He's
so
like, I
funny.
literally spent a month researching, doing deep, and he's like, I got the same monitor. And I was like, see, this is what I'm saying.
But he
Like
knows
I
why he
spent that
got
whole
it
month
now. Like,
and I don't care.
that's
I'm like,
so
I'm not that
funny.
picky. If it shows my thing, it's fine. But I'm like, we're very inconsistent as people, you know, and that's
Yeah.
some of my
I would
inconsistencies.
not have expected that about you, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, me
That's so
neither.
funny.
So,
Okay, close it out for us, Chris.
yeah. Well, thanks everyone for following along and letting us just ramble about life at the end as well. And thanks, Jess, for bringing a cool article. And we'll catch you all next time.
See ya.
See, probably should have said where people should find us, I guess. But oh well.